My name is Jill, and I like to talk about road culture as a culture, not just an experience or community. And today, with Freedom here, I wanted to go over this idea of simplicity, minimalism, and what kind of stuff do you actually need to take with you when you live in such a tiny space. So we're going to take a deep breath, we're going to take a hard look at that question, and we'll see you on the other side. So those of you who have been following me for a while, you know I live in a little tiny trailer. I have about, 18 feet. There's only 15 feet of space and about 13 feet to live in. I also have acquired a horse trailer along the way, and that is 36 feet. Over time, it's empty as a metal box, but it's become more accumulated with my stuff. And I've made previous videos about a battle that I have between simplification and my stuff. But what I wanted to talk about today is, there's sort of this, the terminology, is called minimalism versus instead of simplicity. And I'm not a big fan of that word because in many ways to me it's sort of become a hipster word and cool people do it, and it's very different living in a dense urban environment and being a minimalist versus being simple versus living in a mobile situation where you're out in the middle of nowhere and you don't have access to the stuff that you no longer have in your house. And to me, that's the biggest difference. And I see it as a lifestyle in terms of simplification, asking yourself, what do you really need? And I see minimalism as what can you get out, but your lifestyle doesn't change because you just interact with the world to accomplish or to accommodate what you don't have. And it's really very different. If you're in a big city, you don't have to have very much because everything's at your fingertips. You can, laundry is very rarely an issue. You've got stores everywhere you need. You have gyms. You have every kind of trade profession to fix everything you need. You don't need to have as much stuff. You have the luxury of being minimalist because whatever you need is usually just, a phone call or a quick trip down the road, and you can get it. That's very different than when you live in a tiny space away from everyone and everything, and you very rarely have what you need. It's an entirely different conversation. Which tools do I need to bring with me because I don't have access to running to the store or borrowing one from a neighbor? What kind of cleaning supplies do I need? What kind of, if I don't have access to laundry or plumbing or electricity, how am I going to manage when I can't instantly, do a lot of these things in a very simple way? When I have to do the manual version versus the automated appliance version. And those are two very, very different things. And the reason I wanted to bring that up is I think that there's some misunderstanding about this as a lifestyle and how you have to make different choices in terms of how you are simplifying. And I'm going to talk in another video about being nomadic and still having a trade or a business or an art form or something very specific that you want to do that has a very specific set of tools and things that go with that. Where do you put them? But for this one, it's just sort of an overall looking simplicity versus minimalism, and how I think it's very different when you live this kind of life because you don't have the luxury of just running out and getting whatever you need whenever you want it, because a lot of times it's not accessible. And so you have to think much more strategically and more comprehensively about what kinds of needs will come up. Now, one of the things that's happening is it's becoming more and more popular to live this way. I have seen in my little 7 years doing this a huge, huge change in terms of what's available. I think the tiny house movement really pushed that forward in terms of services and material stuff, appliances, things like that, that fit into this type of lifestyle. And that is just brand new. That didn't ever happen before. But I'm also flabbergasted as I live out, here in the middle of nowhere, how the cowboys used to just travel across the plains with their horse, their bedroll, and a gun and a knife, and that was about it. They weren't carrying great big backpacks. They weren't dragging trailers full of stuff. So I think it's a really interesting question that I have not found the answer to in terms of simplification. I think, like I said, minimalism, I think, is sort of a trendy word that's come up, and some people have made that popular, and so there's, I'm cool, I'm minimalist. But I think the more interesting question is simplicity and how we have evolved into a very complex way of living. And one of the things that happens is when you move into a tiny space is all of a sudden you're aware of all the things that you can't have. You can't run out and go buy something just because you need it, because a lot of times there's no place to put it. You may not be able to buy it because there's no place to buy it. You may not have the money to buy it. You may not have the accessibility to buy it. And so it's to me, a very, very interesting mental shift to simplicity as a mobile way of living. And I'm going to tell you, I don't have it completely figured out. I have spent this entire time constantly reviewing and assessing, my clothing situation, my tools, my work stuff, my entertainment stuff, how to keep evolving to become simple but yet comprehensive. And so I just wanted to make this little video to throw that out there as something to think about. So for those, especially people who are new and who are just starting out, it's a very different way of thinking. I think that one of the most important aspects is to look seriously at what you need, where you need, what climate you're going to be in, what areas and regions you'll be traveling in, what you will and won't have access to, and making decisions about what to take with you based on your specific lifestyle. Because we've sort of all evolved into our own unique way of being, how we cook, how we exercise, how we play, how we entertain, how we communicate, how we work. And that has nothing to do with minimalism. It has everything to do with you only have X amount of space, and so you have to be extremely strategic in how you use that space. I will tell you, I have not mastered that at all. And so I'm just throwing it back at you as something to think about. I think it's a really hard question. Again, I think I have the clothing thing kind of sorted out, the shoe thing sorted out, the food thing more sorted out, but there's a lot of things like tools and just other stuff that I still haven't gotten a big handle on that. But I just thought I'd say hi and throw it back at you. So I'm not into the cool minimalism, but I think simplicity is a very core concept that most of us could spend a little time thinking about. So before we go, we're going to take a deep breath, and we're going to see you next time. You could aim for perfection.